Rahim. Before starting, I would like to share this picture. This is the place where I belong, and I started my COVID career with this place, and I have the honor to work in this prestigious place since its inception, which was back in 2020. And here, not only we treated our patients, but we have learned a lot. And it's one of the dedicated, and it's the first ever dedicated hospital, not only in the city, but also in the province and in the country for that matter. So, having said that, I decided to carry out my first study within this setup. That was back in 2022. The topic is knowledge, attitude, and practice among COVID-19 healthcare workers of my setup, that is Sindh Infectious Diseases Hospital and Research Center, Karachi. So something about the background. We all know that first wave of COVID started back in 2019 December. That was in China, and our case was reported first time in February 2020. We have so far witnessed about 5 waves, terrible waves, and which have caused many to become infected and cause fatalities as well. So my study design was a cross-sectional quantitative, and I carried out it in the form of pre-structured questionnaire. Setting was my hospital, that was Sindh Infectious Diseases Hospital and Research Center, with a total sample size of 1111, including all healthcare workers, doctors and nurses of the Sindh Infectious Diseases Hospital, which were involved in taking care of the COVID-19 patients. And we excluded those that were not involved in the COVID-19 patients. So now coming to results directly, this table shows that number of male participants were 63 and female were 48. So the percentage of people between 21 to 30 years of age group was 67. 24 were between 31 to 40 years, and above 40, the percentage of which was 8% only. So this data shows that people having bachelor's degree was 48.86 in percentage, and diploma holders were 32.4. We had 6 FCPS people, making it 5.4 percentage, and rest were masters 10.8, and we also included 3 MBBS doctors, making a sample size of total 111. So with the help of a statistician, we worked on the variables. Number of items shows that there were 13 questions regarding knowledge and 5 questions regarding practices among COVID-19 patients, healthcare workers, and 4 were those related to attitudes among healthcare workers. So Cronbach's alpha is a formula where cutoff which is 0.5, and the value less than 0.5 concluded that practices were not acceptable and adequate, and more than 0.5 value indicated that the practices were acceptable and adequate. So we were happy that our score was more than 0.5 in each category. So it was concluded that the practices and knowledge attitude were comparable to the international studies. So finding of this study were comparable to the previous studies and international studies for that matter, and 90% of the healthcare professionals were very well versed in the understanding of COVID-19 pandemic. So as a result of timing of the study took place in the period in which Pakistan was under a state of national lockdown, healthcare workers were already familiar with a significant amount of knowledge and information related to COVID-19. It is crucial to have a knowledge in order to advocate for preventive steps and to create positive viewpoints on the effort that is being made to combat the disease. My research concluded that by the time we were fighting with the COVID-19 patients, and we witnessed many deaths within our setup, our healthcare workers were very well versed and they were very well equipped. They had full psychological and social support, and they were very positive in order to treat our COVID-19 patients, and the more they are well versed, the more they are able to prevent the spread of the disease, and vice versa. So thank you very much for listening.
Next presentation is by Dr. Tehmia. She will present her study on pandemic aftermath and do the vaccines help. She is a third-year resident of pulmonology and critical care medicine from Aga Khan Hospital.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. So my name is Dr. Tehmia Jas. I'm a resident pulmonary medicine working in the Aga Khan University Hospital. I'll be presenting our prospective observational study on long COVID prevalence and its predictive factors and whether the vaccine helped in reducing the prevalence of long COVID in our population. So globally, the estimates tell us that at least 65 to 144 million individuals had developed long COVID by the end of 2021. If we estimate, on the basis of estimates, if we take 3.9 billion COVID infections by the end of 2021, IHME, based on their modeling data, reported 144.7 million people suffering from one of the three cluster symptoms of long COVID. And at almost 12 months, this burden was estimated to be around of 21 million individuals. The economic, social, and psychological impact of long COVID has also been huge. And only in the US, because of loss of employment, the economic impact is estimated to be around $170 billion due to lost wages. So due to a lack of confirmatory diagnostic criteria, measurement tools, and varying follow-up periods, there has been a wide variation in prevalence estimates of long COVID. And to the best of our knowledge, at the time that we conducted this study, no prevalence data based on the vaccination status had been reported from Pakistan. So this study was done to prospectively investigate long-term sequelae of COVID-19 infection and to determine the impact on symptoms, mental health, and functional recovery according to the disease severity and vaccination status after a year following hospitalization. So this was a prospective observational study conducted in the Aga Khan University Hospital. The post-COVID condition or the long COVID syndrome was defined as per the WHO definition, which has been discussed previously in the recent presentations. Disease severity of COVID-19 was defined according to the NIH Pakistan guidelines. Non-severe was defined as patients with only mild symptoms and no hypoxia. Patients with hypoxia or presence of more than 50% of chest X-ray findings were classified as severe disease, and those requiring non-invasive or invasive mechanical ventilation were classified into the critical disease group. So basically, the severe disease group had both severe and the critical disease. The guidelines were later changed by NIH. So based on the vaccination status, we classified patients into three categories: fully vaccinated, partially vaccinated, and the unvaccinated cohort. Those who had received 2 doses and became symptomatic after more than 14 days of receiving the second dose were characterized in the fully vaccinated groups. Those who had received either 1 dose or developed symptoms within 14 days of receiving the second dose were classified in the partially vaccinated group. So almost from February 2021 to June 7th, patients with at least one positive SARS-CoV PCR test or rapid antigen tests were included in the study. Patients who were diagnosed with COVID-19 on the basis of clinical suspicion but without microbiological evidence were excluded. So this is basically a chart of the enrollment of patients. We almost had 1,800 admissions during 2021. During Feb and June, we had almost 901 admissions. After exclusion of patients with incomplete records, those with not PCR or rapid antigen test, patients who died during the in-hospital stay, we were left with 695 patients. Among these, few declined to participate in the study, and among those with follow-up status, 459 were alive at the time of contact, and 22 patients had died at 1 year follow-up when we tried to contact them. Overall, 459 patients were contacted and evaluated for symptoms of long COVID, and among these, we had the vaccination status known for 452 patients. So we basically had data on 481 admissions. Majority of our patients were males. Mean age was around 56.9%. Majority of patients had severe disease, 64.2% of the study participants. Among patients with known vaccination status, almost 90 patients were fully vaccinated and 90 were partially vaccinated. Mortality rate following discharge from the hospital after the initial admission was 4.5%, and around 18.9% of our patient population required readmissions to the emergency department. Persistent symptoms related to long COVID were present in 29.9% of the respondents, and these are more common in the unvaccinated cohort. Moreover, the vaccinated patients had lower readmission rate and lower rate of post-COVID pulmonary complications. So this is basically a brief description of the baseline characteristics. These are basically the predominant reasons for readmissions and presentations. Primarily, these were because of respiratory impairment, infections, either hospital-acquired fungal infections or reinfections of COVID-19. So coming to differences in long COVID symptoms on the basis of vaccination status, almost among the vaccinated patients, unvaccinated patients had a 1.79 times higher odds risk of developing long COVID symptoms. Most common symptoms were severe fatigue. Other than that, there were significant differences in presence of dyspnea, cough, difficulty ambulating due to breathlessness, and febrile failures. However, we did not find any significant changes in terms of presence of loss of taste and or smell. In terms of functional recovery, among patients for whom we had data on return to employment, vaccinated patients were more likely to return, either full or partially vaccinated, were more likely to return to employment, and were more likely less likely to develop depression, but more likely to develop anxiety. So basically, it is a very borderline p-value of 0.0047. We can't really categorize that vaccinated patients had higher anxiety. So on multivariable analysis, one suggested, after adjusting for female gender, age more than 60 years, comorbid conditions, and disease severity, either the reception of 2 vaccines or just 1 vaccine, both of these categories were associated with lower odds of developing post-COVID, long COVID condition and of post-COVID pulmonary complication. So the meta-analysis I had mentioned here was initially discussed in the previous 2 presentations. Just coming to a quick review of why the prevalence of long COVID is there's a difference in the population characteristics. There's a multitude of reasons: mortality rates, attrition, severity of disease, outpatient versus hospitalized study settings, use of standardized proforma, data collection methodologies, the vaccination rate of patient population, virus variants, among other reasons. Some studies had also included patients without positive RT-PCR results on the basis of clinical suspicion of COVID-19. So coming to the impact of vaccination on long COVID risk, this has been reported to result in a reduction between 15 to 41%. Symptom-specific reduction as such has not been reported in a lot of studies. There was a higher risk of dyspnea of around 2.12 of odds ratio in our study in unvaccinated patients, and this finding was also reported in another study. So just a quick summary of recommendation that we recommend in order to improve data collection on COVID-19 and to reduce evidence gaps. We recommend data collection on temporal changes and reduction in symptoms. Primarily, the studies have been done on either prevalence or incidence. we can utilize the data on vaccination, which is available on government databases, to evaluate the impact, long-term impact of the total number of doses, need for boosters, and time to vaccination. In our study, we were unable to ascertain the time from vaccination to the presentation and time from vaccination to the diagnosis of long COVID. We also have less data on pregnant and pediatric patients, and specifically we need training of healthcare professionals to evaluate and manage long COVID conditions. So just a few of the limitations of our study. This was single center. We did not have any control groups. We were unable to interview 44% of the eligible population. Either they declined or were not accessible. Few of the patients had died before we were able to contact them, and this likely resulted in survivor bias. Readmission frequency may have been underreported. Few patients might have gone to another tertiary care centers for treatment. Furthermore, we, as I mentioned earlier, we did not evaluate for the time to vaccination and the type of vaccine that had been administered. So in conclusion, the study reports the long-term health outcomes of COVID-19 survivors at 1 year following hospital discharge. Even after 1 year, patients who suffered from COVID-19 infection and required hospitalization continued to have debilitating symptoms related to long COVID. And most cases were observed in the severe critical disease group and those who were unvaccinated. So in our study, vaccination resulted in a reduction in both mortality and risk of long COVID, and we can use this finding to emphasize the need for the long-term importance of vaccination after the pandemic, and might increase vaccination uptake rates in our population. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Temia. Dr. Temia has a